Hi all, and welcome to the show. I'm going to bring the guest on now, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. And welcome.
Good evening, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm here tonight to discuss with all of you in a very informal setting and then to answer all your questions regarding the Kingdom of Manna and the trust that is affiliated with the kingdom and how that all came about. Again, this is not a legal disclosure. It's just an informal setting and a discussion to help you understand exactly why the Kingdom of Manna was formed and where we're going from here.
Sounds good to me. Right, let's get into some of the meat of the show. So it's we're going to do it in categories, so people can have a nice flow to all the information that's going to be delivered. And we're going to start with the Kingdom of Manna itself, and who or what is or are the Kingdom of Manna.
The Kingdom of Manna was a decision made between the original tribes, there were 5 at the time, and their current descendants, and a group of people known as warrior. And I'll explain that a little further when we start talking about the tribes. It was actually designed to act as a shield in front of the original tribe for the future ceremonies. It was also designed to be a flagship, as the Kingdom of Manna is officially the only sovereign nation on planet Earth at this time, which has no obligation to the Master Trust. That's very important because it did gain its own sovereignty in October of 2016, and it is the only sovereign nation at this time on planet Earth. And we're hoping to change that by being the light in the darkness, so everyone can really understand how the nations need to move forward to become an independent nation. And that's independent on multiple levels based on the slavery system that was installed by our former controllers.
Good stuff. So what have the Kingdom of Manna achieved in terms of status, and why?
The Kingdom of Manna has been consistently working with virtually every single nation on Earth. It has formed a master plan of fighting against the control system on all levels, not just the levels that we can see, such as government levels or, you've heard of these families and these factions. I know you've discussed that on your show before, but on levels you can't see. So the warrior team and the teams of the original tribes all had bits and pieces of information on how to circumvent the system. And by system, it's not just a political system, a legal system, a spiritual system, and many other systems that were put in place by the former controllers of Earth. So in this instance, everything they've done to this point in a very short period of time is rather groundbreaking, and you may not see it or feel it on certain levels, but it is definitely happening, and I know you're seeing things now in the news that you didn't see before. So yes. It is a cooperative effort between all the nations.
Now, some of the concerns, because, there's been a mistrust of royals and all these titles and whatnot, and some of the concerns of some of the members to do with Kingdom of Manna is surrounding the titles, particularly to do with Jesper. Can you address what that really means, because it's not what people think?
Well, Jesper himself has been recognized as the warrior, which we'll get into a little bit later. So Jesper is on the front lines fighting against the system. Jesper is, if you notice his title, it's actually Grand Master Knight. So he is a knight, or a Grand Master Knight, which in the days of old was actually the party who would lead the troops to war, or would lead all the other knights. The only king on planet Earth, as it always was actually God, or source, or creator. It was never any other being in the days of old. So that is why Jesper holds the title as Grand Master Knight. It does show that he is a royal monarch, which means that he has the right to rule over other monarchs, although they are monarchs unto themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But
okay.
From what I understand, the Kingdom of Manna is not going to be the dominant, new boss, same as the old boss. It's going to share the sovereignty out. Is that have I understood that correctly?
Well, the Kingdom of Manna's goal, again, Jesper being the front warrior and the trust being behind him, and the trust is behind him because the trust needed a defender. So the kingdom became the knight unto itself, and the trust is actually the holder of the assets. So the kingdom doesn't actually hold assets. The kingdom's job is to purely defend the trust and go out onto the front lines and assist the other nations in restoring their sovereignty. So can the Kingdom of Manna restore sovereignty of a nation? No, it can't, but the trust does. So the Kingdom of Manna does the diplomatic communications to all the nations because it is a nation unto itself. So it is currently distributing the paperwork. It's explaining why this is necessary to be done, which starts breaking down the corporate level structures going on through all the way down to the central banks of governments, through the faction levels, through the family levels, and master levels, and D levels, and C levels of control. So, yeah. So it's actually an attempt to restore states instead of them being estates of a third-party crown corporation.
Good stuff. How does the trust and the Kingdom of Manna plan to deal with justice to the criminals who have perpetrated the crimes against humanity for all this time? Is this something the people of each country will need to request from the Kingdom of Manna? And are there some kind of People's Legal Commission, new non-political party that could be put in place in each nation to deal with this?
Well, the Kingdom of Manna is establishing embassies, and we do have agreements from about 144 different nations to establish embassies and or sovereign ground in some places in protection of either assets or of people. So the Kingdom of Manna is forming its own alliances and, of course, will come to the aid of its allies. However, the Kingdom of Manna is a sovereign unto itself. And under the original sovereign rules, the kingdom cannot be an aggressor. It can only be a defender. Otherwise, it loses its sovereignty under monarch law. So this is something that every nation eventually will need to adhere to. But if it would like to keep its sovereignty, or at least gain it and keep it, I guess, we are helping define the infiltration in nations. And we are assisting the nations in understanding the control system. But again, it took us years to figure it out, with the help of almost 2 million people. So, we're also distributing information. We're putting together booklets so the nations can actually understand the control system, should they choose to leave it. So in the case of criminals, we have pointed out to several nations that these parties have forfeited their sovereignty and they are not monarchs. They are now part of the slave system themselves, and they are subject to the laws of the nation to which they are citizens. There is no sovereignty that would give you global immunity against the law of the nation. So if you commit treason in the United States, then you are tried for treason. They claim right now that they are the owners of Crown Corporation. Crown Corporation is what happened when they bankrupted the Bank of England and the Crown, the actual Queen of England, now the Queen, but in 1814 when they did it, there wasn't a Queen. They took over the entire Crown Corporation, hence privatizing the actual trust or the SQV estate. So all estates formed underneath the Crown Corporation, they're claiming to actually own, which is why they are claiming to be the royal monarchs of Europe and the United States and other nations. However, that is not the case. Crown Corporation at the time was a subsidiary of the trust, which is now known as Manna World Holding Trust. It was never a controlling factor, and it was about 7 to 8 controlling points down from where the actual master control over the trust was.
Jasper Ellerman, next intel of the Kingdom of Manna, which was formerly linked with the Manna World Holding Trust until certain things took place. He's currently running around South Africa and other African countries threatening all and sundry not to work with the Manna World Holding Trust and to wait for his paymaster's payout from the Rothschilds via the RV. People have no idea how gridlocked the financial system is now because so many are waiting for this RV. That will never ever take place. They're hampering everyone globally. The whole financial system has ground to a halt. Now Jesper believes he can get into the quantum system and work his codes and deliver the trust to the Rothschilds. To date he has failed 4 times already. He can try another 4,000 times and he'll fail every single one. But then the RV has failed over 1,500 times and some people still think it's valid. So to the people of Africa who encounter Mr. Ellerman, chase him out. The guy has nothing valid to offer other than we'll deliver the RV based on stealing assets that belong to all of the people that are held within the trust. They don't belong to Rothschilds or any other fake trustee. But the deeper questions come to light about Jasper Ellerman from a Danish newspaper dated 2004 and was updated in 2012. And one has to question Jasper Ellerman, or is it Peter Ellerman, or is it Jasper Peter Ellerman? There are 2 of them. As to how and why they are still allowed to run around Africa or anywhere else on this planet, never mind, following 2 separate convictions that has only recently come to light. One in 2000, after 3 cases of serious assault rape on foreign women, where in 2 cases he threatened them with a knife and in 1 case with a gun, to which he was sent to a psychiatric facility only to get out and commit another rape of a 14-year-old girl in 2004. He then got an affidavit indefinitely for him to be held at a psychiatric hospital for his leadership role in the Java Band group rape of the 14-year-old girl. This is why the trust or Kim will no longer have anything to do with him and cut him and the Kingdom of Manna crew off in the summer of 2017. He is working directly for the Rothschilds, and his paid role was to do everything to stop Kim and the trust getting out. We have all the evidence to support it. The question arises, who let him out? Not once, but twice. How did he get out of that facility twice? And why is Zuzanda still working for, with, and also protecting him? And he does know of his past, and he chooses to ignore it. This is a classic case of someone who took a plea bargain with the elites or with certain agency groups, like Neil Keenan did back in 1995, whereby they let you off prison time, but you go and work for them. An indefinite affidavit, and he gets out twice. But eventually your past always catches up with you, and generally you end up in more trouble than you started with. Jesper or Peter or Jasper Peter Ellerman, Kingdom of Manna. Nothing to do with Manna World Holding Trust at all. Ignore all global references to the term Manna. The trust nor Kim are not connected to any other ventures or operations under the banner of Manna. Only the Manna World Holding Trust. There is no subsidiaries, unless you count the People's Club and Create Change. Kim's name comes up on a poorly written, non-detailed, almost childlike report from 5 years ago citing she was involved in a rip-off. This coincides with her taking over the trust. Bizarrely, that site that it's on, the rip-off report, cannot be removed or adjusted to amend updated details. Despite the reporter offering zero evidence of their bogus support claims, as there was no rip-off. Go and check it out for yourself. It's indicative that that site can't be taken down. That site is operated out of New York, I might add. Beware when the trust is rolled out of false claims that it's Rothschild's money or the RV/GCR. It's not. They've tried that game already, telling people the funds are coming last week. No, they didn't. If it was their money, people need to listen to this closely. If it was their money, they would have taken on the challenge Kim made directly to the Rothschilds, also to the Rothschilds' puppet Jasper Ellerman, formerly of the Kingdom of Manna, also directly to Leo Wanter on a phone call. I heard her personally state that, and also to Anna von Reitz and her band of former trustees, as she calls it. The challenge was to give Kim their codes and accounts they believe belongs to them, and if any funds are or were contained in those accounts that is supported by documented proof that it belongs to the recipient, Kim stated she will hand over all the funds or assets back to them. To date, none of them took up the challenge. I wonder why. You would think these people would be scrambling to get their alleged funds back. They all cry they are owed to them, and Kim stole it off them. Kim offered to give them all back when proof of funds could be provided, and yet none of them stepped forward to that challenge. Anna von Reitz was asked for the list of trustees she said is owed money from the trust. She refused to name them. How can you return alleged funds with no names? Simple, the names she holds were all criminal elite bloodline families that stole out of the trust and not give to the people for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's why, like her own family bloodline, the Habsburgs. For the video that was posted today, the Court of Ages video, done by the complete retard known as Cindy K. Courier. Cindy K. Courier has no court, has no authority, and judging by this, clearly has no brain cells either, to be signing off the trust to Jasper Ellerman and the Kingdom of Manna. And neither will the trust funds be routed through the child trafficking group on and off world, I might add, known as Swiss Indo, be happening either. This is a complete embarrassment for the Kingdom of Manna and the crew, that they'll go to such lengths to be recognised. Cindy K. Courier, oh my, what an utter embarrassment. As for the Kingdom of Manna and Jesper and the crew, the offer still stands to Jesper and the Kingdom of Manna. Live on air validation of proof who has the codes and who has ownership of the trust, or not ownership, guardianship of the trust. You ran away last time from the offer. Will you do it again? This next piece is fairly lengthy, and so there's no other intel. There's enough hints in the sub-intel as to what's going on. But the latest clown who is going to deliver the fabled RV on behalf of these masters, the Rothschilds, is Peter Ellerman, aka Jesper. He are formerly of the Kingdom of Manna. Now, Mr. Ellerman has sights on replacing John von Wright as the new Pindar, head penis. Quite why people fight over that is beyond my understanding. So this is will be a message to the heads of state that are listening. I know who you are. But this was issued to Jesper, aka Peter Ellerman, with the Danish passport. I don't need to put the number out. And relating to Kimberly Ann Goguen, Manna World Holding Trust, and the Global Intelligence Agency. This was sent to him directly and recorded back in December of 2017, which is now denying. And it is as follows. To Mr. Ellerman, due to gross negligence, violations of both written and verbal agreements, failure to adhere to multiple mission statements, and apology letters written and submitted by you to include but not limited to the documentation whereby you signed and agreed not to make any agreements with Dragon family members, to include Rothschilds, Covens, parents, or my predecessors. Let it be known to all parties from this date, which was December the 15th, 2017, which he keeps denying, of this cease and desist, that I, Kimberly Ann Goguen, Goguen, acting as trustee, signatory, owner, custodian and principal of the Manna World Holding Trust and all of its former names, and as a director of the Global Intelligence Agency, hereby advise you with immediate effect I have terminated and withdrawn you from all activities, appointments, instructions and involvement with you. You are instructed to cease and desist, effectively immediately, any further communication referencing my name, the name of the trust, the assets of the trust, the country code, the documents and any and all appointments, service provider agreements, letters of authority, etc. previously issued and authorised by me. 1. Immediately cease and desist, confirming or indicating that you have the capacity to act on behalf of myself or the Manna World Holding Trust. 2. You will cease to distribute or keep any documents bearing my name or the name of the trust or the name of the Global Intelligence Agency. 3. You will notify all parties involved in your activities of this cease and desist. And 4. Refrain from communicating and contacting me with regards to any business or interests of the Manna World Holding Trust, myself or the GIA. I hereby confirm the below points of note. 1. All codes, drawing rights, the system access has been completely terminated. There are no codes, drawing rights in your possession which are active as of this date. Your appointment to the GIA has been revoked and all clearances terminated. Your appointment as a service provider has been terminated. Your right to claim access or affiliation with any account asset of the trust, such as the account number MLF 1140209870702 and any previously issued codes or drawing rights issued by me to you and used by various members of your team must also cease and desist immediately. You must notify any and all members of your downline, team, countries, etc. that your position or positions have been revoked and you no longer work with the Manna World Holding Trust, to include but not limited to the D team, any and all brokers, intermediaries, any officials of the Kingdom of Manna which you have appointed and I did not authorise. I, Kimberly Ann Goguen, have withdrawn completely from any affiliation with the Kingdom of Manna, both personally and acting as the Foreign Minister of Kingdom of Manna. All rights, privileges and treaties of the Kingdom of Manna shall be revoked by separate treaty cancellation and attached hereto. Due to failure to perform under the service provider agreement and any and all other agreements, and making agreements with third parties on my behalf which were not authorised, making agreements with the former trustees and or groups which can be considered terrorist against all of humanity, is considered a complete breach of trust and a violation of what the Manna World Holding Trust stands for. You are not due any compensation now or in the future based on your gross manipulation of my authority without my knowledge. And a copy of this cease and desist shall be lodged with the Council and all parties involved directly or indirectly with the Manna World Holding Trust and myself, Kimberly Ann Goguen. This will be posted tomorrow, by the way, in full. If I get approval, I will also post the Trump sovereignty letter as well.